Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's fact. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome to the Last Round Podcast, and today we're doing a bonus show with the fearless Feargal McCrory. Thanks for joining me, Feargal.
Thank you for having me, Michael. It's good to be on with you.
All right, before we jump into your big fight, which is happening Friday, June 28th against Lamont Roach for the WBA Super featherweight, I want to rewind. So where did you grow up and how did you get into boxing?
I grew up in Island, County Tyrone. It's in the north. And I went to boxing. For my first time I went to boxing, I was actually 6. I was only 6 years old. My father and my uncle boxed before me. My cousins all boxed. But, you know, Clino Boxing Club was something that everyone in the area and in around the area would have attended at one time or another. You know, from generations before me to generations after me, even still to today. Most young lads in the area attend the club at one time or another, and I was no different. Thankfully, I was no different.
I read when I was doing the research that you were actually pretty good at 2 different sports. You were good at Gaelic football as well.
Yeah, I played inter-county football for Tyrone. I was very good at football also, and in Tyrone, it's a very strong Gaelic community, and it's also a great family. You know, the GAA family as a whole is incredible. Even out here in New York and Philadelphia, you know, the GAA communities have really gotten behind me as well, which is great. So I was good at both, but I think I made the right decision in sticking with the fighting.
So, what age did you have to choose?
I actually did both for the majority. I had to sacrifice football more than I had to sacrifice boxing. You know, the football lads never ever wouldn't want me to compete or train or fight, but the boxing coaches didn't really want me going into a football match before a championship, which I often did and not tell them, and they found out and went crazy. But it got to the point of it was probably I stopped playing football. You know, I just stopped football. I'd also stopped boxing for a while. Also, I was young and a wee bit crazy. I wouldn't say off the rails or anything. I was never drugs in my life or alcoholism, but I was young and wild and enjoyed the crack with my friends. I enjoyed, you know, the weekend millionaire lifestyle and broke again on a Monday, you know. I was young, as I say, I made mistakes. And thankfully, my daughter was born when I was 22. And, you know, it made me become a man very, very quickly. And I was also young enough to be able to go back to fighting. Now, I only stopped boxing when I was like 19, so I wasn't away for a very long time. But I never really went back to football, you know, after 18, 19 either.
Just for our non-UK listeners, just explain what Gaelic football is.
It's like it's like a mix of rugby and Aussie rules, if you know what it is. If you don't, then American football. No, you just got to watch it. GAA football. Yeah. Look it up. It's great. It's a great sport. When you understand the rules, it's great. Unbelievable. But to be honest, even though I'm a Gaelic footballing person, I prefer the hurling. The hurling is my favourite sport to watch. High level hurling. Oh my God, amazing. Us Tyrone boys, we're footballers, so hurling isn't. It's getting there. It's getting there. We have some good hurling teams in Tyrone, but we're not as strong as the teams down south. But it's a great sport. Irish sports are great.
So you stepped into the boxing ring at about 6 years old. How was getting punched in the face for the first time?
I don't know. But it mustn't have been too bad. I'm still here. I actually remember my first night in the gym. Frank Irvin was there. God rest him. He was a great trainer, a great man in the community who helped a lot of youth. And I remember going in, there was a huge blue punch bag. My father took me down as a surprise. I don't know if it was a good surprise or what it was, but I remember it being a surprise. And a big bag. Now, it probably wasn't that big because I was only a child, so in my head it was huge. Put a pair of gloves on and started punching, and that was my first night. And I don't remember the first time I got punched in the face, It was probably, I grew up in the estate in Ireland, and I'm so happy to have been there. But my mother was actually a tough woman, so like if I came home into the house crying because someone hit me, I wasn't allowed back into the house till I went and hit them back. I wasn't allowed in. You can be beaten, but you have to hit back. That was the old mentality back then, and I actually still like it. But so I'd say the first time I got punched was probably out in the housing estate, even at that age.
It was kind of preparing you for the ring.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say, it could be maybe nowadays classed as a cruelty or something. I'm not sure. I don't know how it would be viewed today, but it worked.
So looking at your amateur career, from what I could see on the internet, you only lost 12 times in 127 bouts. Is that about right?
It's something like that, yeah, and around that, yeah.
Successful amateur career, 4 Irish titles, including the under-18 championships in record fashion, where you didn't concede a single point in 4 fights, which included 2 fights against reigning Irish champions.
Yeah, and there was also 2 of those fights stopped as well. I was in great form in that tournament. I was flying on all cylinders, Yeah, we set a record, which with this new system. Now I know guys have had finals, just had byes to the final and not conceded a point, but to come through the way I did, is very, very different, and something I look back on with great fondness, And I enjoyed my amateur boxing, but it was never a goal or a dream or ambition of mine to ever go to the Olympic Games.
Did you prefer the amateurs over the pros? Because I know a lot of pros say they don't like the politics and stuff like that of the pro game.
Politics right through the sport, from young boys not getting the correct decision at boy 1 and boy 2 at 11 and 12 years old to Olympic Games, to world title fights, to debuts, to professional debuts. I mean, there's politics throughout our sport. How can we make it better? I don't know, because we have judges right across the board from grassroots to Olympic level to world championship level, which you need judges. Someone has to decide who wins the fight. But there's just politics and favoritism and everything throughout our sport. It's a great sport. It's an amazing sport. What I will say is all the fighters and all the trainers are usually good people behind it all, Quite often the business people it can be hard to deal with. That's just boxing, isn't it? I suppose it. I liked the amateurs in terms of you knew when you were fighting, you knew you were getting nothing for it, you knew that it was not as I'm going to say not as serious, but I don't mean I didn't take it serious. I don't mean that, but it wasn't your career. It wasn't like, it didn't have the same pressures to me. Not that I feel much pressure now. I don't mean that, but I mean, like, I enjoyed the amateurs, but I was always looking to go professional. I do prefer professional boxing over amateurs. I'm just giving you a few things as to why the amateur, what I liked about the amateurs. I like the round robin tournaments. I like the unknown going into tournaments. You don't know who you're going to fight. Like, I also take a lot of that experience into the pro game, like when opponents chop and change last minute. This often happens in the pro game. Not at this level of a fight that I have coming up, obviously, but as you're coming up, the opponent can change 3 and 4 times in 2 weeks. You don't know. And you have to be able to deal with that. But it's the same as going into an amateur tournament. This is why your amateur tournaments and your international events prepare you so well, because you train hard, you be ready, and whatever style it is, you perform. So they all have their pros and cons.
Who were your favourite fighters growing up?
Miguel Cotto. I love Miguel Cotto. Manny Pacquiao, Ricky Hatton, Arturo Gatti. I don't actually watch much boxing today. I will now if I'm in the house on a Saturday night, which I usually am, and there's boxing on, I'll watch it, but I won't get up in the middle of the night to watch a fight. If I'm in bed, I'm in bed. That's it. I'm not watching it.
Anything that's in your style that you think you may have picked up from watching them?
I don't know. What I liked about Miguel Cotto the most was obviously how he performed in the ring, but how he carried himself outside of it. He was a gentleman. He was a man of the people. The support that he got, his mannerisms. He was a family man first and foremost, and when he got into the ring, it was like he was vicious. He was a savage of a man. I mean, the light welterweight Miguel Cotto was dynamite. Your Manny Pacquiao. No, I don't think of anything with him. I'm obviously southpaw, but no. Arturo Gatti, big heart. Yeah, I'd like to think of heart. Yeah, but has it been tested yet? No, not yet. But where I come from and the history of where I grew up, it's sort of inherited and installed in us all. And I don't question my heart when it comes. Like, I think everyone will see.
So, Feargal, how did you decide when and how to turn pro?
Well, I actually went pro years and years ago, and it fell through. I was young, crazy, mad. That time I'd stopped boxing. It was just mad. But when my daughter was born, it was before she was born. I was, I don't know how to really put this into the right way because I was never off the rails. Like, it was never off the rails. It was just a wee bit crazy. No direction. Lost direction, because I always had direction. I had great family, great group of friends. But I met my now wife, and she fell pregnant early enough into our relationship, maybe 8 months, 9 months. It was a big thing, obviously. I didn't even know how to look after myself, and I had a kid on the way. So I went there and I got myself a job, and a proper job. I had a job, but it was just money for the weekend. Got myself a job. Then whenever my daughter was born, I just wanted her to chase whatever she wanted and do what she dreamed of doing, and I know she'd be good enough to do it all. But I was being a hypocrite because I wasn't doing it. I was just going through the motions of life and getting by, which is okay. But how can I expect someone to do something if I'm not prepared to do it? So I got on to John Breen, and he made me work and train for so long. Oh my God, so long. And I showed him I wanted it. He got me my debut, and we just kept going then, The amateurs, I was, when at that age, at that time, I could have went back to the amateurs, absolutely. But with the benefit of hindsight, I think I made the right decision in going professional. And not because of where we are now, because I believe I would have gotten here anyway. But I just think that I learned a lot of things about the sport, about myself, how much I wanted it throughout all those years that I've been professional. Now, 3 years of inactivity wasn't ideal with COVID, but we were all affected by COVID. But it faced adversity, and you find out how much you really, really want something. And I stuck at it through the hard times and the good. Obviously, the good's good, but it's the hard times that test you, and where you see what you want. And yeah, I want this. That's why I'm still here. That's why I'm fighting for a world title in a little over 2 weeks' time, June 28th, because I want it, and I was strong enough to stay focused and driven and keep that tunnel vision through all those hard times. So, yeah.
What do you remember about your pro debut? Because obviously, you're slipping on those small gloves and stuff like that. And I'm sure the first jab that you take, you're like, oh shit, like this is completely different to the amateurs.
Yeah. I remember putting my hand in, and it was so hard to get my hand in. Like, it wasn't so hard, and I'm exaggerating, but in comparison to your 12 or 16 ounces, like, I was like, what is this? And back home in Ireland, it's very, very different. Now, I know we're in the north, it's under the British Boxing Board of Control, most of the fights, unless for an Irish title, and then the Irish Board of the IBU, or BUI, sorry, Boxing Union of Ireland, who were a great commission I was licensed with my whole time at home. They're not as strict as America in terms of how they stay with you and drug test you and stuff. And so the gloves, like your gloves, they bend your gloves back and they hold your gloves for ages to push the padding back in them and all this stuff. It's like crazy shit. I remember looking over thinking, well, if we're doing this stuff, they're doing it too. And then I get my hand in, and it's like, whoa, what is this weapon? But you only get your gloves one out here. You can try your gloves on when you get to before you pick your gloves before you fight at the weigh-in and stuff at the commission meeting, and then you get your gloves. There's a commissioner. He holds your gloves the whole time and gives them to you, and you put them on. So there's none of that funny business goes on here. But yeah, but at the debut, I was so nervous. I sold loads and loads of tickets. Excuse me, and it was on first. It was on at like 5:30 or 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and not everyone got down to watch me. But I fought a Hungarian, and I never even connected with the kid, and he fell over. I remember thinking, "Whew, this is easy. I like this. This is easy." I think he maybe felt a bit of power, and he said, "Nah, I'll take my wee check and go home here. I'm happy enough."
Was your pro debut a ticket deal? And if it was, do you mind kind of explaining to the listeners how that works?
Yeah, well, I can't remember what it was. And I'm actually going to tell you something that will surprise you. Obviously, the people back home in Ireland and England and stuff that'll be listening to this may be surprised with the going-ons of a recent enough court battle. But I made my debut on a Barry McGuigan show. And it was a 4-rounder. Now, I sold a lot of tickets. But for my debut, I got paid like, I don't know, like £4,000, give or take, maybe a little bit less. But for a debut on a ticket deal, that was crazy money. Like, he paid me very well. It was probably my biggest push for about 4 fights. Was my debut. So yeah, the way the ticket deal works is, so you got to sell. For example, I'm just using random numbers here. So your opponent's flights, hotel, him and his coach, food, etc., for 2 nights is come on his per service and all in is coming to £2,600, let's say, or $2,600, depending where you are. So you've got to clear that right off the bat, and then the promoter's going to want money out of that. So you're probably going to have to clear another, again, depending where you're at, £500 to £1,000. Maybe not £1,000, no, £500, £400 maybe. He has to make money. Then you may have costs of the show coming out of that, and then you'll get paid after that. So you could be, the way they can sell it to you is like, so you sell £5,000 worth of tickets, and you will get £1,400. For everything over £5,000, you get 15% of that or 10% of it or 20% of that, whatever it may be. So then once you eventually get paid, you have to pay your trainer is 10%. Your manager will be on a fee, that's going to be between you, whether it be he's entitled up to 25%. So if you're tied into a deal where you're paying 25%, you're 35% down. You may have taxes to pay on top of that. So you haven't an awful lot left, So it's just not as glam as everyone thinks, especially those early days. Those early days are tough. You need that promoter behind you.
And that's why some people just switch and go to the away corner, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. No pressure. Show up. If you have that elusiveness style, you don't take a pile of punishment. A lot of the time, the away corner could bother the home fighter, but they don't, because they won't get work the next week. If you're making £1,200 a week for 4 rounds of fighting, it's good money. It's damn good money.
So how did we go from that to moving to New York?
Well, the opportunities were very, very hard come by in Ireland. I wanted the big fight. I wanted that 50-50, and there was a lot of doors getting closed on me. So I decided then, I'd always wanted to be in New York, though. I did. I always wanted to be training and fighting in New York. I decided I'm going to go over here and have a look, investigate this, and see where it takes me. So I came out for a week, I think, and I went to Andre Rozier's gym, a great trainer, a great person in Brooklyn. We worked out and we got to know each other, and we ended up then. We went to a show in Philadelphia. It was the night where, or no, did I come back? No, it was that trip. It was the night where Better BF stopped the Ukrainian in the 2300 arena, or not the 2300, the Leah Cora Center in Philly. And like a great seats, I was sitting like beside Bob Arm, Lomachenko, Usyk, all these guys beside us. It was crazy. And we got the deal done that night then that I would be fighting on the March St. Patrick's Day event by Top Rank. So I came back out just after Christmas, early January, and started training for March in Andre's gym. COVID hit. Like, the fight was a Tuesday, I believe. Scheduled fight was a Tuesday. COVID came in the Thursday or Friday. Everything was shut down, and it came over. But I sold loads and loads of tickets. I got to know so many people out here, and it was just an itch that always needed scratching. I had to go back. I saw something here. I knew there was opportunities. An Irishman on the East Coast, being in the East Coast and getting to know people and getting the support that you get was really, really overwhelming, and I wanted to come back to investigate that further. COVID eventually cleared off when I came back, and I trained at home, and I came out the week of the fight, and I fought in Andre's yard in Brooklyn. It was a disaster on so many fronts, my own included. And I went home then, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. This isn't what I expected, what I wanted. But I didn't want to leave it at that. It was a horrendous performance. The show was on, it was off, it was on, it was off, it was up and down. It was a disaster. But I had a lot of things that I done wrong as well. So I'm not blaming anyone else. Well, my performance is on me that night. But I just knew it wasn't right, and that wasn't me. So I came back out, and I started working with Colin Morgan in Bout Fight Club in Lower Manhattan. And I got a fight on R&B promotion show in Atlantic City in February last year. We fought a Brazilian. We took him out in the first round. Then he had a show in April of last year. fought another Brazilian, took him out in the third round. He was tough. He had been in with some good operators. And then I was supposed to fight last June, the 29th of June, actually, last year. I was supposed to fight. It was here in America this time last year. Training for a fight in the Sony Hall on the Boxing Insiders event. And he was running the show with Lou DiBella. And he blew a hernia out. So I went to get that fixed and came back. And then we fought in Madison Square Garden in November. Sold loads of tickets. And then we were there again in March. And I sold loads of tickets as well. We had the WBA Continental Americas title on the line. I fought Carlos Kjolson, a tough Mexican who had shared the ring with some very good opponents and also fought for a world title himself. I stopped him in the third round, and then we got the call for the world title a few weeks after, 4 weeks after it, I think. And here we are. So
how was moving, because we were talking about this before we pressed record, but how was moving from obviously Ireland to New York, the change in culture? Was there any change in coaching style and boxing?
Yeah, well, I actually still live in Ireland. I just travel to America for 8 or 9 weeks before each fight. But where I live in Woodlawn. All the Irish will be familiar with it. I live off McLean Avenue, and it's called the Emerald Mile. It's Little Ireland. So the culture is actually the same as home. I've got all my local food. There's Irish accent. There's so many people from Tyrone and all over Ireland, So you go to the coffee shop there and there's a great wee community in it. You get the Irish bars, the GAA. So the culture wasn't that big of a shock. New York City itself is obviously a lot different than up here in Woodlawn. We're upstate a little. We're not upstate. We're in the Bronx, the top of the Bronx, just on the border of the Bronx and Yonkers. But it's the boxing was very, very different. What I did find out, and I found it out the first time I came before COVID, that tough is not enough. Quite often at home, tough's enough. Tough's not enough out here. You'll get hurt. Tough man out here will get hurt. You got to be smart. You got to listen to what you're told. You got to be fit, and you still got to be tough too. You still got to have that bit between your teeth, because when you're sparring these tough Dominican Republicans and Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and then your New Yorkers and your guys from New Jersey, they're all tough operators, smart, fast, fit. So the boxing is very different out here. Yeah, I believe that the boxing out here is at a higher level, and in New York City, you don't get any easy fights. The commission won't sanction them. You don't get them.
And you think that's obviously brought you on, been surrounded by that, sparring with that's brought you on levels and levels?
Yeah, I have no doubt. And working with Colin Morgan, he's an amazing teacher of boxing. So he won't just tell me to do something. He'll explain why we're doing it, when to do it, how to do it. Even though you may know how to do it, obviously, but where you want to be before you do it, how to set it up, how to set that trap, how to exit, it's great, yeah. I've come on so much in the last year working with Colin that I believe it's just went from strength to strength. And it fills me with great confidence going into a fight with Lamont Roach in his hometown.
How was fighting in Madison Square Gardens for the first time?
It didn't go as I had planned. A lot of things went wrong in the preparation on my part. I accept all of these things, and that's why we address these. That's why we get proper nutritionists on. That's why we get performance coaches on. That's why I get psychologists on board. This is why we've done all this. And it was disappointing being on first when I sold majority of the tickets. It was very disappointing. Then with no TV time, they put me on Facebook Live or something, and I was upset about that. It was there's no point in going into the detail on certain things. 360, for example, are brilliant to work with. I'll put and say that they're incredible. Really, really good relationship with Tom Loeffler and his team. But it was just that was our first dealings together. I was disappointed with being on first, etc. It didn't go as I hoped. The second fight in Madison Square Garden, it went according to plan. Tougher fight too. A game opponent. Charles Carlson had a full training camp. He agreed to the fight well in advance of coming over here. So again, incredible tickets, like insane amount of tickets. And it was a dream come true. It was something very, very special to fight in Madison Square Garden. Being an Irishman and the Irish connection to New York City and the boxing connection to Madison Square Garden, it was definitely one ticked off the bucket list that night. The second night, oh my God.
Just to explain to the listeners, why is it that if you're an Irish person, I guess, that you just have such a following? If you look at yourself, Conor McGregor, Katie Taylor, that doesn't happen in every sort of nationality, culture, country.
No, it doesn't. But what I found out, what you're saying, I assumed that when I first came to America that people will just follow you because you're Irish. Some will, yeah. But when they connect with you, like when they see you around and they get to talk to you and you're dead on, because the Irish aren't stupid. If you have an opinion about yourself or you're an asshole, they're not going to like you. They're not going to follow you. But when you really connect with them, they grasp onto you and they support you like just like you're talking about. I actually had a different podcast earlier today, and I've said this time and time again. No matter what I ever achieve in this sport, no matter what titles or accolades or whatever it may be that lies ahead for me, the greatest achievement that I'll ever have achieved will be the support. It's just insane. Like where I live here, again, I know it's just Little Ireland on the Emerald Mile on McLean Avenue. If I'm out running, there are people beeping the horn and waving and shouting, and I don't know some of these people. But you wave and you say hello when you're running, and if I'm out walking, people stop me and they talk about boxing, and they're really, really, really interested and supportive of you, and it's just an honour to represent those people. But like Katie's our Jesus, she's our absolute golden girl. She what a role model and inspiration for so many. What Conor's done from where he came from is equally as motivational. But just we're very lucky. We're very proud to be Irish, and I think though whenever you're in New York and these places, and so many Irish are here, because they have moved away from home, they love to have that piece of home out here representing them in the fight game. And if I make them proud, then that's all I care about. It really is. I just want to make them proud and happy. And the same as the people back home. The people back home, like I have 80 something people flying out this time. The last time I had 160 something, I think. That was St. Patrick's weekend. It was easier to sell. I'm going to the Land's Den Champions. But like I could have milked New York City. Could have done that. I could have stayed in the garden. Let's see. No. I want to be champion. I want to be champion of the world. And I'll do whatever it takes to achieve that. And again, for those people that are coming to support me and that have supported me, is they are a massive motivation for me.
So turning our attention to the big fight, Friday, June 28th against Lamont Roach for the WBA Super Featherweight title. So, Feargal, where were you when you got the call, and was it a surprise?
I was actually, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine out here in America, Robbie Corrigan, rang me when we were on the phone, and he asked me, have you any fight news? No. This is honestly how the conversation started. No fight news. And I was doing a little bit of work around the house. So I was going to get a roll of Turam. It's like a material you put down on top of the soil when you're digging out to put a new road into the field for the tractor to drive on. So this is what I was driving to the hardware store to get as this conversation started. And no fight news. So we're talking away about family and life in general. And then Julio Thyme messaged me from the WBA. Julio was the man I had been speaking with in regards to the WBA title in March. He was also the supervisor there and the man who presented me with the title after the fight. He texted me, he said, "Champ, are you ready for the big time?" Champ, you ready for the big time or the big stage, big time, I think it was. And I says to Robbie, I think I'm getting offered the world title shot here. He says, what are you on about? Because at the start of this, so I'm trying to explain it as if that's how this went. Because that's how the conversation started. He says, what are you on about? I says, look, Julio, and explained who he was, text me. He says, fuck, right, good stuff. What are you going to say? I was like, yes. So I text back when and where. He says, Lamont Roach, question mark, you ready or something? I says, when and where? He says, you'll fight him. So I replied again in capitals, when and where? Let's go. So he sent my details to Robert Diaz, and we got the deal over the line. And spoke with my trainer and a few people in America that I trust, and we got there. We got the deal done, and here we are now. So was it a surprise? Yeah, it was, because I had initially thought that him and John O'Carroll, another Irishman, another proud Irishman, were going to fight. They were in negotiations to fight, but the negotiations obviously stalled or fell through, whatever it may be, and Lamont had a voluntary, and he must have thought that I was the easiest pick out of the top 15, so thankfully he thought that.
Was there any talk of holding it in New York?
I asked the question. No.
What do you know about Lamont Roach going into the fight? Is he someone that you'd already looked at as a potential opponent, obviously because you're high-ranked in the WBA?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was someone we looked at. He's world champion. They don't give out world titles for nothing. Be a hard night. Be a hard night in the office. But yeah, I'm not going to give away too much. But I'm excited.
Going into the fight, when you obviously the big fight like this, without giving away too much, do you look at what he does, or do you more focus on what you do and kind of better what you do yourself going into it?
Well, we look at different things, We look at what he may try and exploit in me. We look at what I want to exploit in him. We prepare for many different scenarios. We come into the fight ready, As I say, he's a world champion. They don't give out world titles. But if it's a fight, it's just a fight. That's all it is, and I work as hard as I've ever worked. I always work hard. I'm focused. I'm committed to it. And I always knew that without the backing of a big promoter, which I never had, I was always going to have to do this. If I wanted to fight for a world title, I was always going to have to be in the away corner. I was always going to have to go to where the champion is or is from, or more than likely have to do that. I was hopeful when I was selling because I sell loads of tickets in New York, that it could possibly be done here. But it wasn't possible, so that's okay. Mentally, I've prepared myself before this fight was ever offered, and I knew this was going to be the case. So, yeah, let's go.
So the rematch will be in New York?
Yeah, well, I'm tied into a rematch clause. Yeah, I would say now maybe Saudi Arabia would be nice too, but not looking past this fight, but yeah, I would like to defend a world title in Madison Square Garden. That would be incredible.
I see in the build-up for the fight you were sparring with actor Barry, and I'm gonna murder his last name. Is it Keohan from
Barry Keoghan. Yeah, Keoghan. Well, listen, Barry boxed when he was young in Dublin. He's actually based in LA now, but he does a lot of travel, he spends time in New York, and when he's in New York, he stops by our gym and works out. And he wanted to get in and do a few rounds, so we've done a few rounds. Yeah, he's a great person. He really is. He's such a nice, modest, humble person who doesn't forget where he come from, who works extremely hard, and is reaping the rewards of it now. He's going to be a superstar.
You think we'll see him step over into those YouTube type fights?
No, he's a movie star. He's a movie star. Why would you bother? But he could, because he can fight. But who's he going to fight? Like what? I don't know. He's very busy with the acting, I think, and I don't think he's going to run out of work with it anytime soon. So, no. I hope not. On him. I think he's too smart for that. But if the money's right, maybe, sure, who knows?
Right, that's kind of the answer for everything, right? If the money's right.
Yeah, that is the answer, isn't it? Jeez, it really is.
Someone else I saw that you'd met on your Instagram, Conor McGregor at the Black Forge Inn in Ireland.
Yeah, he's a character. Conor's a character, but what I will say about Conor is there's about 5 Conor McGregors. The Conor McGregor that you meet is not that crazy Conor McGregor that you see on social media. He's a good person, a really good person, and it's great to see him back fighting. But I wouldn't be reading into all this stuff you see about him drinking and coming up to a fight. That won't be happening. He'll be fully focused on what he's going in to do. He's a marketing genius. He's turned UFC into. He brought the world attention to UFC, and he's very, very rich. Congratulations to him, and nothing but the best for him. Good luck.
Any words of advice from Conor?
No, if I don't know him personally, like,
right.
I wouldn't be on speaking terms with him. When I met him, I was introduced as a fighter, obviously, and just that was it, like, and just he's sound man, and if he ever needs any sparring, I'd be more than happy to help him out.
Well, Feargal, I appreciate you giving me 45 minutes of your night. I know that you're 3 hours ahead over in New York. Good luck for your upcoming fight in a few weeks' time. If you want to tell everyone where they can find you on your social media handles and where the fight's going to be.
Yeah, you can get me on Feargal McCrory on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not on Twitter or X. Instagram, you can just get me on it. Facebook, you probably won't even get me on Instagram. I'm actually very low key. Very low key. I just like to keep myself to myself. I love being at home with my family. When I'm not fighting, I stay off socials. When I stop fighting, I'll delete socials. So, if you need anything, reach out, and I will try and get back to you. Absolutely. But thank you for your time, and I really, really enjoyed it, Micah.
And you can find us at The Last Round 12 on Instagram and Twitter. And be sure to catch us next time. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.